It is Freestyle Friday, and I'm going to talk about my week in Bali.
Welcome to the What's Eating You podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and I'm a psychologist, published author, and public speaker here to educate and validate. Enjoy the show.
So, if you're new here, my name is Steph, and I'm a clinical psychologist, and I'm currently in Bali with the Women's Fitness Academy. Now, we only have a couple of days left on this retreat, so I'm going to give you an overview of the highlights, the lowlights, and other things I'd recommend to do if you are in Bali or you're thinking of traveling solo. As always, make sure you click and follow the podcast and leave a review or a rating if you haven't already. Let's talk about the highlights. I absolutely love Bali. It's one of my favorite places to be. I've been here over 25 times. I've attended on my own. I've come with family. I've come with friends. I've been to Bali with my sisters, but this is a hybrid trip. It's mostly a work trip. It's go, go, go. It's very busy and there hasn't been much downtime at all. But this is the way I like my life. I love my life to be a hybrid and a natural extension of what I usually do. And what I usually do is I exercise, I keep active, I enjoy healthy foods, I enjoy cookies. So just maintaining all of that whilst I am here. Definitely a highlight and something you can take away from this episode is just to reflect on how far you've come in your life. One of the workshops I run is really about overcoming imposter syndrome and building unstoppable confidence. If you haven't listened to that episode, please do. But one of the things that keeps us stuck in a negative loop is this comparison. And it could be comparison to other people, it could be comparison to social media, it could be to our old selves if we were in a skinnier or smaller body, or if we had a different job. And comparison is the biggest thing that is going to keep you stuck and dissatisfied with your life. And I have done comparison before. Believe me, I think age is a big one, especially being one of the more mature people on this trip. Age does come up a lot. And even though I don't really have any insecurities about my age, sometimes I just think, oh, if only I was 10 years younger, or imagine being here now and being 10 years younger and taking all this in. But I do believe that with age comes wisdom. So I'm grateful for that. So the first highlight is putting yourself out of your comfort zone and being around women and reflecting on how far you've come. And if you're listening to this, I really encourage you to do this. Every time you find yourself comparing yourself to someone else, which I guess is a low light, bring yourself back and say, what am I proud of compared to the person I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago? I remember writing down that I want to be living in Bali. I want to be educating at retreats. I want to be working on my laptop. And I actually shared my vision board with the students in my first workshop. And I was just sitting by the pool because I had a little 10 minutes by myself and realized I am living what I dreamed. And it may not be exactly what you envision. I always thought I wanted to live in Bali, but on deeper reflection, it's more the ability. People are attracted to ability, not so much the actual goal, if that makes sense. They want the ability to be able to travel, they want the ability to be able to live overseas. So I think reflecting on how far you've come is a huge thing to do, especially when you're stuck in comparison. I might do a whole episode on comparison because there is a lot I can say about that. But what I will leave you with is this: when you find yourself comparing, bring yourself back to, who am I comparing myself to? Are they an equal representative of the population, or am I comparing myself to a very small sample that's not representative of the population? Because if you do that, you're going to engage in something called visual adaptation. So, for example, if you're comparing yourself to people on social media who are skinnier, who are leaner, who are thinner, because many women do, you're going to see yourself as larger than you are and as abnormal. And this is not effective for you or anyone around you. So ask yourself, who am I comparing myself to? Is that useful? And bring yourself back and say, how far have I actually come? So that's been one of my biggest highlights, is just being here and saying, do you know what? I manifested this. This is the life I wanted. It's not perfect yet, but this is it, Steph. It doesn't always have to be perfect. My second big reflection in Bali was I did have a few days where I felt a bit of flat, low mood, and I just did not feel like myself. And it was very strange. And what I noticed during this time was that my inner critic was very strong, and my inner critic just had this expectation of me, and I wasn't living up to those expectations. This is what I think it was. It was a feeling. And then I think I tried to unpack the feeling as to why I felt this way. And I always say to people, if you're feeling flat, low, anxious, you don't need to understand it in order to get through it. And you know me, I'm really bubbly, I'm happy, I'm out there, I'm loud. But every now and then I do get these couple of days or these flat or meh, let's call them meh episodes. So I communicated it and I shared it and I told my partner and I just said to the girls, like, hey, I'm feeling a little bit flat. But I didn't let that stop me from doing the things that I value. So, for example, I still went and got my hair blow waved, and I'm so lucky to have the privilege to do that. But I didn't want to. I wanted to stay home. I didn't want to go out for dinner with the girls. I just wanted to stay home in my bubble. And yes, sometimes that's necessary. But I thought, no, Steph, just keep going. It's okay to feel this way. Just keep going, keep doing what's important to you, and soon everything's going to be all right. And I think as well, I just was conflicted between being in this hybrid mode. Some people are here and they go in full holiday mode. Some people are here and they're still in work mode. For me, it's a hybrid. I enjoy going out for dinner, having soul foods, having whole foods, but also maintaining my boundaries around being in bed early, my boundaries around not drinking. So I only drank a couple of cocktails on the night of we went to Motel Mexicola, but there's been so many opportunities to drink and for the sake of it. So for example, with happy hour, you get an extra cocktail and there's extra drinks around, and just really digging into myself and thinking, I don't want that. And just sticking to those values, that makes me feel really good. So I think perhaps the mood just came from being tired, running around, maybe from, oh my God, the time's going so quickly, or I've got this expectation of myself. I want to get up. I want to post on social media. I want to get my walk in. I really want to go to the gym. I want to be present. I want to go for brunch. I want to enjoy all the foods. And I think for me, I can be a bit rigid, and being cognitively flexible is something I'm working on. So, for example, I've gotten over my phobia here, which is actually a highlight. So, throughout this period, my highlight was addressing my rigidity around when I exercise and my rigidity around doing things a certain way. So, for example, there were times I trained at lunchtime because the schedule just didn't allow for that. Or there was times at 3 o'clock I did activities. And if you know me back home, I have this thing that I've now broken through, which is the day ends at 3. So after 3, I'm like, no, that's my downtime. The day ends. But my friend said something to me. She said, Steph, the day starts at 3. So now I'm seeing 3 o'clock as another day, and that other day has a different set of activities. Maybe it's more relaxing, unwinding. So I've been embracing that and being okay with that. And even though I've got a gym program to follow, I'm being really flexible with my exercise. I'm not going as hard. But what's important to me and what I do really well is imperfect consistency. And that is something I preach to the moon and back. Now, my third highlight was this thing called face therapy. It was a type of facial I've never had before, and it's face exercise. I think there's one place in Australia that does it, but essentially they pull your hair, they twist your hair, and then they tap, 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 tap your face like a gua sha type of motion, and they stretch your neck, and it's meant to really help with a tight jaw and tight muscles. And they do other ones where they actually go inside your mouth. I didn't get that one. I more just got the face therapy and the exercise where they slap it around a bit. But it was so relaxing. I'd never felt anything like that. It was incredible. And she said to me, she said, your jaw is really tight, which is so interesting because when I went to the dentist a few months ago, he said, you grind your teeth. And I said, no, I don't. I don't think I do, but I have a retainer and the retainer has holes in it. So pretty sure I do grind my teeth. But we hold a lot of tension in our mouth and we hold a lot of tension in our jaw. And I've actually been mindful of this. And just in my day to day, I notice I'm biting down and clenching my jaw. And I'm thinking, what are you doing? What is wrong? So even though I'm not an anxious person, even though I don't get anxiety, I don't feel the heart racing, I don't get those symptoms unless, it's necessary, something's happening. I definitely hold on to tension in my jaw. And that's something I've just been really mindful of. But this facial therapy and massaging that and stimulating the jaw was absolutely amazing. So if you're in Bali, it is called face therapy. And the last thing I'll share with everyone is just being open to experience and being open to trying different things. Many of these women, they arrive at the retreat, they set these goals and intentions, and before the retreat's over, they've already achieved them because they've been so open to trying new things. And for me, with that has been food. I tend to always go to the places I like, the places I know. But this time I've said, you know what? You choose where we're going to eat. Or why don't we try this new restaurant? And some of it has been good and some of it not so good. But this is another thing I tell my food freedom family is not every meal is going to be amazing and not every meal is going to satisfy you, but that is okay. And just being okay with the fact that not every meal you eat is going to be absolutely incredible and amazing. And this actually really helps people with disordered eating or eating disorders move through those worries. Anyways, just a little quick tippet on my Freestyle Friday. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the follow button, leave a review, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. I am truly grateful for you being here. If you got something out of today's show, please take a moment to leave a rating or review. To access more resources or support, check out the show notes below. See you next time.